I remember when I reached out to both of you guys, I saw a video about, postpartum in general, right? You were speaking about postpartum and, men feeling a certain type of way. And, and there are a lot of ignorant men that feel like that. I know this because I know men that feel that way you're like, what? You're not going to experience. First of all, for me, if you're not married or in a situation where you're about to have a kid or you're living with your partner and you don't experience it, and you shouldn't have nothing to say because you never experienced it. Mm-hmm. But then living with a partner, it's a very delicate situation. And it goes back to what Walessa said about reading books about certain things before she even dives into them. Most men in general would wish that they picked up a book on how women feel after pregnancy. And it's a sad statement to say, I'm sure that men are not thinking about this at all. It's only a few of us that would think about that. Mm-hmm. It's challenging in itself, but you have to experience it. And then after you experience it, you have to become a more delicate type of person and understanding at that point, because there's a lot of things happening both to the mom and to the dad, of course. What were some of the challenges you would say were difficult for you to feel in that instance when,
like after having the baby?
After having the baby.
Oh, that was so much. I mean, there's things like being my second kid. There's things that I anticipated feeling, like being in pain or being emotional or needing help. Having to balance between still being a mom to my oldest and now the baby. But then just so many complications came as well that I wasn't anticipating. And I'm somebody who's fairly like independent. I'm used to figuring it out. Like if something needs to happen, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do less complaining and more doing about it. And I'm just going to get it done. And there was I couldn't do any of that. Like I came home from the hospital and I was sick, and then I had to go back to the hospital for a week. So I had to become fully dependent on everyone else, including doctors, parents, like what's happening with the baby. Like I didn't even get to bond with my baby like those first 2 weeks really. Yeah. So it was a lot. It was a lot for me to go through an experience, and it was just also like a lot for him. Like, oh my God, like we're both in this new stage of our lives. Like we're parents again, and we're not even able to like do it together. Like, and so what is he going through? And then he has to be at work. So him being worried about me, the kids, what's happening in the house, and me be worried about everything else while I was isolated. It was a lot. It was a lot of pain, isolation, confusion, a lot of emotions. So much, too much.
It's a lot. Recently there was I saw this post on Pix 11, right? That said that in New York State, they've approved 20 extra hours for pregnant women who are dealing with their problem. And I put, 20 hours?
20 hours of what?
That's not of PTO. What are you talking about? First of all, I believe, and this is just me, I believe that after a woman gets pregnant, gives birth, they should be off for that year or two at that point, because you're becoming a mom and it's hard. And I lived it with my wife. So it's hard I saw it become hard for her to detach and go back to work, because she just kept on doing the countdown. In 3 weeks, I'm about to go back, and I cannot let go. I'm here as a mom. The baby needs me. And it became tougher and tougher. And I'm like, there should be things in place where we're not even asking for PTO or extra PTO and shit like that. It just took me back to when you were pregnant and we was dealing with it, babe. So it's a lot. But in dealing with the emotional side, right? As a dad, right? How did you show up to support your wife in those moments?
Well, I'll be the first to say, I thought it was going to be easier. Yeah. And she was so prepared. She did so much research during the pregnancy. She had it, she had the ideal pregnancy and how I want to do this. I want this to happen and this to happen and this to happen. So to see that it didn't go according to plan broke my heart, but I can't show that. But there's a statement that, if you ever want to make God laugh, you tell him your plan.
Yeah. 100%.
And, at the end of the day, I'm kind of the type of person that, I have a no problem attitude. I'm going to figure it out. Yeah. So whatever it is that she needs me to do, I'm going to do it, and also at the same time, be very conscious of, we have 2 other kids as well. So don't let them think that this is a bad thing to begin with, while you're trying to split yourself in 6 different ways. So, it was, I was going in and out of the hospital, also making sure that I take my daughters out to, daddy-daughter date. And also at the same time, making sure I spend time with, my son, who obviously needs me at that same time. So it's not easy. But really, I didn't want to show as much emotions to my wife. I wanted to show that I got this.
Yeah.
And I did my best, and that's really what it boils down to. So now when we look at it, and figure that happened like 4 months ago or 3 months ago, it's we're in a better spot now, and we could look back and say, we made it through that as well.
You know what's crazy? That could make or break a relationship too,
yeah.
because not everyone is built to withstand what comes. Like, okay, it's the most exciting moment of your life, even if it's the second time or the third, whenever, when it happens, and that moment becomes like precious to you. And then things just start like to trickle in different ways. And if you're not solid with your partner, that's one thing I learned, because we've been together 17 years this year in total. We've been married like 10 this year. Did I get those numbers right? Okay, perfect. So, I'm looking for the validation. But the thing is that, all jokes aside, it's a lot to deal with, and if you're not in a solid stance with your partner at that moment, everything crumbles. If you don't understand each other, if you think life will go back to whatever it was, just be there and support. That's all. Like, I cannot stand, like, as I've grown and I've become a dad, I can't even be around men who don't take care of their kids. That's just not my style. I cannot.
Right.
Adding to that again,
Yeah.
I'm speaking most recently with, because there's 3
Yeah.
kids, but even if it's just your first,
Even-
you
yeah.
have to let go of being selfish. Like you're that's it. Your time to be selfish was when you were single, when you were not in a relationship. Because then when you start having kids and when you start being selfish and you're not there, then this woman didn't have a kid on her own. And if you want it to be that way, then it's not going to be a bright future for you. And at the end of the day, like you want to make sure that you contribute and put your part, because again, like this child, maybe you may not think that they see it that early, but emotions start from the very scratch. So you want to be able to set them up for the future. So again, get rid of the whole selfish aspect. You had that time as you developed in your own life and grew in your own life. But once you start bringing, you get married, you're bringing a kid into this world. Like, that's not the time to start backing up and being selfish. That's the time. You created a child because of love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you had so much love between 2 that it was enough to create one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So that's what I want to highlight.
And what you're mentioning is important, because there's been, like, I've seen it with my own eyes, like with friends and cousins and family members, where they're disconnecting right after the birth. And it's just, it's sad to see something that seemed to be so solid from the outside looking in, right? Because we don't know people's problems. We don't know people's issues. But you would think that, people, will be together collaborating, and the baby and the man being more present. And I seen a lot of men just step back from that. And I'm like, that's not what you do. As a man, first of all, yes, you make a baby out of love. You're there for your partner. Now, there's going to be challenges. Nobody said that this was going to be easy. Of course, we don't want chaos, like we mentioned, right? We don't want chaos. We want it to be a beautiful family, the kids to know that the parents, they're looking at a mirror image of how life should be with their partners moving forward. You want that beauty aspect of it. But there's going to be challenges. And then to know that there are challenges, and you have to kind of live life, be a parent to other kids, and your parents need you, because we're at the age where our parents are getting older.
Yeah.
So that they become more dependent on us. So it's a lot happening. But at the end of the day, like I always tell my wife, I was like, listen, it's you and me. I'm always choose you. I'm always be there for you, because unfortunately, the grandparents one day will go, our kids one day will go, and when we're alone, it's us again.
Yep.
So, but I just wish more men understood that time frame is very delicate, and it's a make it or break it at that point. So, what advice would you have for, or what would you say you hope more couples understood about dealing with postpartum?
I would say, when it comes to the man, for example, like, there's a different level of support that you need to have, and like understanding. Like the woman doesn't need to tell you to do certain things. Like if your wife is breastfeeding or your partner is breastfeeding, you physically cannot breastfeed the baby. Wash the dishes.
something.
Do something else that can give her that time to do what she needs to do with the baby while you can do something else in the household or to help her. Or can I bring you water while you're breastfeeding? Or can I do this while you do that? The things that you can't do that she's doing, like communicate in that sense,
Yeah.
and just taking turns as well, like helping, like, how do you feel, or talking amongst each other. And it goes the other way too for the wife. Just because the man isn't experiencing the same thing, he may be feeling a certain way. How do you feel? Are you okay?
Emotionally, all
Is
that
there
stuff, yeah.
something that we need to talk about? Like just being aware of those things, because it is a lot for them too.
Yeah.
They don't know physically what we're feeling. They can't read our minds, even though it should be obvious, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going through this or whatever. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't have the 4 phases of a cycle. They don't know about
we don't.
ovulation and all. They
Right.
don't know. So being able to communicate, like the woman as much as you can, and the man just being able to like be aware, like, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that, but okay, I could do that over there.
It's important. It's good that you said that, because even outside of postpartum, right? Even let's step away from it for a second. As a married couple, like before, I used to look at it, and my wife will tell you, when she would say, I shouldn't have to tell you these things, right? Like to help me. I shouldn't have to tell you to wash the dishes. Before, my ego would battle that a lot. I'm glad I've grown into a much mature man that now I'm just helping. Just so I know that the Friday nights we're going to be sitting down watching a movie later on. Let me remove a lot of things away from you. That way you're not stressed. Let me take the kids, do something with the kids, so that way you're not dealing with them. Be more proactive, not as a parent, not only as a parent, but as a husband too, as a supporter. Just be more proactive. Like a lot of men deal with that in a way with their ego, and they don't dismantle that ego. And it's not until they dismantle that ego that they reach a point where it's like, she's not actually talking at me, that she's just telling me that she needs more support. And that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. And
Right.
a lot of times we're dealing with our stuff and as men, and we're so enwrapped in something else that we're not seeing. That's not that we don't want to. It's just that we're not seeing at the moment. Now, a lot of men probably don't want to either because of their ego. Again,
Right.
and growing up Dominican, right, in the Dominican culture.
And you didn't see that.
Machista,
We didn't see
right,
that.
right.
What did I say? Yeah, what did I say in the beginning? I didn't see none of this. And as a matter of fact, I want to say I'm a good cook. Am I? Yes, I am. I'm a good cook, right? She cooks good, but I cook good too. It's because I saw my dad do it. My dad did some ribs one day. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I want to do it. I want to try it. And then I got better and better at it. Now I'm a full-blown chef in here. So I know, I'm going to give myself, but it's because I saw it. So that's the thing. But what I didn't see was the support towards the other parent, or,
Right.
and not only in my household, my uncles were the same way.
Yeah.
The Dominican culture in itself, like the ego is very too much like engulfed in how
Machista.
that machista thing is a lot in us. We have to dismantle that as men and become more supportive. As a dad, though, and as a family man, right? What advice would you give men in general about their partner going through these things?
I would say, don't forget, again, you're living with each other, you have kids, but you're not roommates. You're partners, just like any other team, you need synergy. You can have great players and it won't work unless everybody's all in. And you just like she said, you can be doing something at the same time. I don't care if you don't have energy or not. None of you guys have slept the night before because the babies are just going to be up all night. Just give everything you have. So that way it's never questioned. And again, this period, this time is not going to last forever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so with that being said, know that there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And everybody goes through this. We're all here because our parents, gave birth to us. And I'm sure that there was times where there was postpartum and all that other stuff. And we're here. But at the end of the day, you write your own story and how you want that to look. And also at the same time, just like I'm saying, you're not roommates, you're partners, your marriage, that's my wife. Like, don't forget that, their body's going through a lot of changes also. Remind them that they're beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just, if they don't hear it, then they're going to think only negative thoughts, especially since there's a whole bunch going on. So you're the pilot of the mind, especially if they're staying at home and you're out going to work. Their story is going to be based off of what happens within those four walls. So you got to be able to not pour from an empty cup and, think of it as half full and give them everything that you have. Remind them that they're beautiful or that they're doing a great job. Take the baby off their hands, because you'll be better for it. I'm not saying necessarily let them win all the time, but you don't need to win every battle, especially if you're defending a bad position.
When you realize it's not a battle at all,
it's not.
You
Exactly.
won. You see what I'm saying? Like if you give flowers, if you send words of affirmations, double time. Do that on double time during those times that she needs that support. Because like you said, this is just going to be a glimpse in time at some point. Time passes,
right?
But she's going to remember how you was, what type of man, what type of character you displayed at that moment. And that in the future plays into you guys either being even more connected or more separated. Because I'll tell you this, my mom always, how they always say these stories and they feel like they say it for the first time, but she always says the story.
Yeah.
My mom would always tell my in-law, right, that and I love her too. I love you, Fayida. But they're the best of friends now. They're in the house. They're actually in the living room right now, watching novela, whatever. But she would always say a story about when I was born. They had to leave me incubated in the hospital because they had me with some eye stuff, something with my vision, and it lasted 3 weeks. They took me from her chest, and she didn't see me. She couldn't touch me for 3 weeks. And the more she says that story, is because she was going through her own motions of postpartum, and I hope, because I don't know, but I hope that my father was supportive in that time frame, because I don't know. Because keep in mind, the generation before that was harder than our parents, right? So this mindset, this ego thing, what was your mentality in that time frame? You see what I'm saying? I even go to my dad sometime when life gives me challenges with my kids, hey, and and everything happening and me working like that. How did you deal with things back then? I asked him that. He was like, yo, I just worked. And that's just very off-putting to not say I need therapy or anything. We're the generation that kind of is for therapy, even if it's just coupled us talking to each other, communication and stuff like that. We do that on double time. Right. So when you say that, if you get flowers, if you throw words of affirmations, just know it's not always about you. Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you guys for sharing that intimate story about yourselves. And I wish you much healing, because I know that postpartum is, because I'm learning as I'm going, right? It's been a long time, but the thing is that it could show up at any time.